All right. Thank you so much, Teresa. Thanks, Ali. Thank you, Fellowship of the Spirit Toronto. And my name is Mackenzie Selby. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is March 5th, 2009. And I said this last night, but it baffles me. You admire people in AA, and I was like, I'd been watching Teresa for years, and I've been trying to get her phone number. And that Reggie gave it to me, and I was like, oh my God, I got her phone number. Okay, my daughter's in here. Okay, thank you. Bye. Anyway, Reggie, I told you she'd barge in if I didn't lock the door. But Reggie gave me her phone number, and I was like, oh my God, I got Teresa's number, So, and she's just a human, but I love her, and I'm glad to be your friend. Anyway, let me get off that for a second. My home group is the Straight Outta Bondage group of Alcoholics Anonymous, who meet every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday at 9115 Southview Street in South Haven, Mississippi. So if you're ever in Mississippi and you need a meeting, please holler at me. And I would love to come to this meeting every Tuesday, but I've committed to my home group every Tuesday night. So glad to be here. I hate that y'all are listening to me, or I have to listen to me. Anyway, so I guess I can start by saying, like, my relationship with God was very strange. I, started drinking when I was 8 years old. I had my first drink at 4, but I really got started when I was 8, and it was over by the time I was 17. But a lot of stuff happened in between. And I'm just going to give you a little backstory of like my relationship with God before we start this. And so, my grandfather was in Vietnam, and I got on this church bus, and I was asking him about God. And he said, there ain't no God. I killed a bunch of kids in Vietnam. There ain't no God. And I was like, all right, okay, cool, And my grandmother would drink a case of Milwaukee's Best and be like, come over here. Let me tell you about my friend Jesus Christ. My mom would smoke a bunch of meth, tweak the pipe, and she's like, let's study the Bible, And it was just strange, to say the least. I was that of profound confusion. I did not know what was what. And in rehab, I went to rehab for 11 months, and they told me to pray to a smiley face on a piece of paper. And I was just like, this is bullshit, whatever. I'm just going to do what I got to do to get out of here. And that was kind of my idea of God. I was like, this is just a piece that it talks about, I think Bill talked about this in his story. He was like, I read the Bible, or I looked at the what are they called? I don't know. He's like, basically I looked at something and I picked out what I wanted, and I disregarded the rest. And that's kind of what I did with AA. And I don't know if it was because my brain wasn't fully developed and I was a kid and I couldn't grasp and understand what you guys were trying to tell me, but I was just resistant. And I would be in meetings and people would just mention the word God. I flipped tables. I threw chairs. I tried to get in a fight with a 60-year-old woman because she told me it doesn't even matter. And then this one guy told me, we're in Mississippi, so it's like Bible Belt. And he's like, I can feel the dark side seeping through you. And it was like, that crazy stuff just turned me off. And I went to church with one of these girls, and her dad was a preacher, and he was, screwing kids. And like, they have like these things called tent revivals, and they'd be like shaking snakes and stuff. And I'm like, what? I don't know what this is. This is crazy. And then I'll go to all black churches. Those were my most favorite. I was like, this is great, but everything else was weird and I didn't like it. So I just kind of marked all that off. And so I got sober when I was 17. I had a sponsor by name only until I was about 3 years sober. When I was about 3.5 years sober, I really started working the steps. And I was sitting with my sponsor, and we got to step 11. And I just kind of said, yeah, I believe, whatever. She's like, it'll come when it comes. And it got to the point where it's becoming a real problem. And I was just kind of raw dogging life and doing trial and error. And people would say, why don't you try meditating? Have you prayed about it? And I'm like, shut up. I don't want to hear that. Like, tell me something logical I can do to fix my life. And I go to my sponsor and be like, what do I do now? She's like, I can't tell you what to do. And it would just infuriate me. I'm like, just tell me what to do. Just give me some direction, Isn't that what you're supposed to be doing? And she would just laugh. And like, they'd be like, don't make any big decisions your first year. And then somebody said, what about step 3? That's a big decision, you know? And she said, I have to go out and have my own experience. And with God, she said, do you believe that I believe? And I said, yeah. She said, borrow mine until you get your own. So I was praying to my sponsors, God, for the first 6 years I was sober. And I would try, I read so many books. I went to Buddhist monk temples. I went and did like Indian or Native American sweat lodge. And I prayed with crystals, and I did all the shit. I did everything I possibly could. And I just felt like I was insane. And I really love what Saeed read. And that's what got me. It says, it doesn't have to be this big, crazy, burning bush experience. Most of us are of the educational variety. And that's what mine was. And that's kind of why I picked this topic. And I know you read it, but I'm just going to say it again to refresh myself. It says, almost any experienced AA will tell how his affairs have taken remarkable and unexpected turns for the better as he tried. And I just kept trying. That's what they told me to do. They said, come all the way in, sit all the way down. Don't leave a moment before the miracle happens. If you give up, that means you're a loser. Don't give up. Just keep doing it. Just keep trying. And I'd be like, but I'm praying and nothing's happening. And I don't feel anything. And dude, they railed me for that too. Like, my sponsor would say, just sit for 5 minutes in the morning. And I'm like, I'm neurotic. I couldn't, and I was unmedicated for 10 years. So I'd sit down and be like, and I could not do it. It was very difficult for me. Some people come in, and I would love to come in here and say, like, I do 2-way prayer every day. I heard that guy, he said he does 2-way prayer. I sat down and did 2-way prayer for 2 days. And I was like, I can't do this every morning. This is way too much, way too much. I hope I can get there one day. But like, I was comparing myself to all these people and what they were doing. And I was trying to recreate their experience instead of going out and having my own. And I was basically thinking myself out of meditation, if that makes any sense at all. I was making it so difficult, and it's very simple. And so what happened for me was I was about 6 years sober. And I prayed I didn't believe it. I just did it because my sponsor said, because they said, faith without works is dead. If you want to be sober, you need to walk like you want to be sober. So I just did it. And I was terrified to ever go back out again. So I just did everything she told me to. So I was praying every day. I didn't listen to a radio for 2 years in my car because that was quiet time with God. Really, it was just my head going nuts. And I was sitting in a meeting one day, and it just hit me. They do these weird, this is strange. They do these weird things in Mississippi. It's called a big 3. And this is how far I was like, I'll do anything. I got to find this. I got to find, this connection. So they do these big 3 meetings. It's the big book, the 12 and 12 in the Bible. And I went in there, and it was some crazy shit being talked about. But they did say this one thing that got me. It said, and I don't know why this is the thing. And that's another, I never know in what form it's going to come in or who it's going to come from. I don't know. I just got to be there. And somebody told me, this is step 11, but they told me with step 6 is like, I just have to create the space for God to do the work. You know what I mean? Whether I believe or I don't believe. So me getting up every morning and reading these books, I'm creating the space for God to come into me and do the work, whether I believe it or not. And so I'm sitting at this meeting. I'm trying to create the space. I'm being open. The essential things, I'm being open-minded, and I'm willing to go to this fucked up, weird meeting, whatever. So they said something about the salt and the light, and the dude explained it to me that a salt was a preservative and a light is meant to shed light on things that are in the dark. And we're supposed to preserve and shed light on the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I don't know, that doesn't even make sense, but whatever. When he said that, it was like, I felt it. I was like, oh my God, I need God, and it just, that was just my thing. And I was sold after that. And then for 3 years, I was feeling like every day, oh my God, I'm tapped. I'm tapped in. I'm plugged into the power, like for 3 years. And then one day I woke up and that feeling was just gone. And I was like, what is wrong? What happened, And somebody told me, doesn't matter what you think, doesn't matter what you feel. They didn't say it that nicely. They said, F what you think and F what you feel, do what you know is right. They said, what have you been doing for the past 3 years? Waking up, reading, praying, keep doing that. And I was like, but it don't feel good anymore. Anyway, so I'm all over the place, sorry, but I guess where this piece comes in for me is I had that experience, and it was like a frothy emotional experience because it felt so good, and I never experienced that before. When it was gone in my brain, God, this entity has left me. It doesn't care about me anymore. And once again, somebody's failed me, and I don't trust anybody. And so and I'm kind of like Teresa. For the last however many years I've been sober, it's been like one thing after the other, back to back to back, terrible shit happening. And how much time do we got? Because I'm about to tell you. So my grandfather that raised me, he got caught. He was trying to rape my niece. The dude that raised me since I was a child protected me. It crushed me, and he admitted it to me. That shattered me. And then a year later, he died. And I had to take my daughter to a gynecologist and a psychologist. And a dude I was messing around with gave me herpes. He never told me he had it. He gave me herpes. That crushed me. And then after that, I was with a guy for 5 years, betrayed me, beat my ass sober, verbally, emotionally, mentally abused me. And I was just like a shell of a human. I failed nursing school twice. I realized I had a resentment against my 8-year-old child. I lost the best job I ever had. I got a better job. And anyway, all this stuff kept happening. And my experience up until this point, I came in here full of resentment and anger and self-pity, and I hated myself and I hated everybody around me. And when my sponsor sat me down to do the 5th step, I got molested when I was 8 years old, and on the 4th column, my part, I left it blank. I was like, I didn't do anything. I was a child. And she, nicely told me, she said, did you use that as an excuse for all your bad behavior after that point? Did you ever seek help for it when you were old enough to? Did you use that as a reason to drink and to mistreat people and da-da-da-da? And I was like, yeah. So I had a part in it. And then she read me that piece in the book that said, the greatest thing we have to offer is our personal experience. With it, we can avert death and misery for countless others only if we put the past into good account. So she said, this God you hadn't been believing in or trusting has big plans for you. And I was like, this woman's nuts. Have you heard anything I said, And I started to, I need physical evidence that I can see with my eyes. And number one, you guys were the physical evidence for me before I could ever see it myself. There was a guy, and I hope I stay on track, but there was a guy, my most favorite old timer that passed away. I really appreciate y'all and Never Too Early book study, because all my old timers that died have been replaced with these new people in my life. I wasn't even looking for you. You just showed up, and I deeply appreciate that. But anyway, my old timer that passed away, the first time I ever knew, wow, this is going to work for me. I know in my guts it's going to work. He stood up and he told his story, and he told about how he got gang raped in prison. He was sober. He was driving this old truck with a hole in the floorboard. His son fell through the hole when he was driving. He ran over him and killed him when he was sober. You know what I'm saying? And he just got up there and said it, and he owned it. And I'm looking around like, did y'all hear this shit? And he just kept going. And I was like, how do you have that kind of freedom and strength? And my friend Ann, her son got killed in a motorcycle wreck. She was in a meeting that night. My friend Heather's son, he was 3 years old. He had leukemia, died from cancer. She was in a meeting that night. A guy, I don't even know who this guy was. My first home group, we had an 8 a.m. meeting. I came, there was a speaker. And the speaker got up and he said he worked at the railroad. He got off work, went home, and he was coming because he committed to speak at this meeting. And when he got home, his house was burnt down. His wife had strangled both of their children and shot herself. And he was at a meeting that morning telling his story because he committed to doing it. And I was like, I had some good fucking examples, man. I had some tangible evidence that this worked. I just didn't have it in my own life at this point. So you guys gave me enough courage to say if they can do that, I can do anything. You know what I mean? Like, this is definitely going to work for me. I'm the bottom of the barrel right with them, and they love themselves and they're happy. Like, why can't I be too? And so when my sponsor sat me down and we did that 5th step, and she told me that thing, only if you put the past to good account. So I got so serious about doing the work, and I started seeing, like, I got raped and molested because there's other little raped and molested girls that are coming to AA that they've never said it to. They told me. I started being so open and honest about my whole life, and I started seeing, like, all this stuff that I thought was a detriment is actually the best thing I've got to give to anybody. That's why I'm sitting here talking to y'all. It's not because I'm funny, you know? And all that stuff that happened, like, I failed nursing school because I don't even really want to be a nurse. I got put in a better position. That boyfriend, the dude that gave me herpes, that changed my sexual behavior, and it forced me to take a deep dive into the work, you know, and be there with my child and deal with because, like, sex is an outlet too, you know? And anyway, and the dude that was, I was with for 5 years, I got out of that relationship, immediately got in another relationship. Another dude got prostitutes on the news. That sucked. And it forced me to go to therapy, you know? So all this bad stuff happened. It turned out, and my initial and what I continue to look at, and even before this meeting, I was telling them, Teresa, I was like, oh, I sucked last night, and I felt weird, and I didn't sound right, and I didn't explain it like you did, and you talked about the physical manifestation, and I didn't say that. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh, I just said so much, but what it boils down to is, like, I don't trust God. You know what I'm saying? I don't trust God. And I wish I did wholeheartedly and fully, and I just don't. That's why I need to continue to do this stuff. And, like, I'll get areas of my life I'll get to where I really trust. You know when you work, I don't know if this has anything to do with step 11. I feel like it does, and I really hope it does. I feel like I'm going nuts right now. But you know how, like, you're really super hyper focused on one area of your recovery of your life, and it's really good, and you turn around and there's like 10 other areas. You're like, oh my God, no, I've ignored all this stuff. And so that's how, I don't even know why I just said that. I totally forgot. Anyway, but yeah, I guess that's how it fit. Oh yeah, that's how it feels with, like, trusting God. You know, like, I didn't even know and I hate the 2-way prayer, but it's really helpful. I hate it. I don't want to sit there and do that, because every time I do it, it reveals all the stuff to me. And, like, you were talking about writing last night, and with I can't focus. So what I do, and I'll just tell y'all my 11th step routine, I guess, since we're talking about step 11, but I get up and I'm fucked up. I'm in a bunch of different programs. I'm messed up. I'm sorry. I'm in a bunch of different programs. So I just try to read spiritual literature and stuff that's going to make me focus and connect to God, and anything that's going to help me be unselfish, because that's all I think about all the time is me and how I feel. And but the main piece is, like, I try to sit there and pray, and I cannot focus. And I used to, like, try to make myself, but I've just accepted the fact I can't focus like that. So what I have to do is, like, I write my prayers every single day. I usually read the meditation, and then I'll write it down so it'll sink in my brain, because when I'm writing, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking about it, I'm physically doing it, I'm fully immersed in what I'm doing. So I actually absorb it and grab it, because other than that, I can't do it. So, but I guess to wrap this up, the main thing I'm trying to express is, like, in the beginning, I did not trust God. And then all this stuff happened, and I had it wasn't, when it says it's circumstance rather than a virtue. It was not a virtue. It was pure, it was like, damn, I've tried everything that I know, and that ain't working. So I guess I'll try to meditate now. You know, I didn't consistently meditate until like 2 years ago. I just was resistant to it. I thought it was stupid, and I was different than everybody else, and I can pick what steps I need to work, and I can inventory really great. And I'm an inventory queen. Let's just inventory everything. And, like, so I had to just, I got to a point of desperation, internally. And then I had to look at, like, why am I so resistant to step 11? Because somewhere in my brain, I think it's lame to admit that I trust God or to talk to this entity I was like, why do I think it's lame? And I had to look at that. Somebody, my family was like, what are you doing? Why are you even my granddad's like, you praying to nothing, ain't you? And that was stuck in my head from when I was a kid. And it talks about we got to let go of these old beliefs and ideas. And I didn't know that until I started freaking meditating. So anyway, but I guess for me, it's like I just had to submit. But when I did that, just like it said, my whole freaking life got better. My whole life got better. And it's kind of like with alcoholism, is like I was looking at prison time and I had no other option but to go to treatment AA. And I was like, damn, I can't do anything else. It was completely out of my control. And then I started doing it and my life slowly got better. And then I looked at step 1. And when I admitted I was an alcoholic, my life slowly got better. And then when I started, because I totally skipped 2 and 3, I did them just like, I'll say, yeah, whatever. I'm on step 4 now, That's how I'm going to show that I decided. So I started doing the 4th and 5th. My life got a little bit better. I became more aware. And then I skipped 6 and 7 4 years. I read a few sentences in the big book and I was like, all right, that's over. You know what I mean? And then I made amends. Things got a little anyway, but I don't know. I started trusting God more and really, really trusting God and understanding what faith without works is dead means when I had all those messed up experiences. And I remembered, like, damn, Dan got through that. I'm going to be fine. And I know deep in the recesses of my soul, to my core, whatever happens, I'm going to be fine. God's got me. And I don't know how to quantify that or explain it, but I think for me, it's just come with experience. And, I wish I could. I can't explain it, you got to have your own experience. I hate it when people say that. I'm like, tell me how you got that. I just kept living. You know what I mean? Anyway, I feel like I'm just talking out of my rear right now. So that is about all I have. I hope that was close to being on step 11. So thanks for asking me to come out, and I appreciate it.